You're listening to Motorsport Radio.
Our first guest on the show tonight, talking about BSB. He's amongst other things, BSB journalist, MotoGP journalist from the Pit Crew Online. He's also an aspiring commentator as well, and TV and radio presenter. Yes, he's brand new to Motorsport Radio and to Monday Motorsport. Please welcome onto the show Kiko Giles. Hello there, Kiko.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Lester. Cheers for having me tonight. Well, where do we start, really? You know, there's so much going on this weekend. I can't wait to get stuck in now. It's unreal. So much to talk about in the world of bikes.
Certainly is. And the link up between Cool Fab Racing and BSB, that's already sort of been producing since their link up last year. It's already been producing some big name riders as well, coming through into some of the BSB support series as well.
It has, and I think, you know, people want to aspire to be in the CEV World Championships, but everybody seems to forget that to do that, you've got to go to the main British National Championship. I mean, you look at who's there now. You've got people like Tom Booth-Amos, Eugene McManus. You've got Taz Taylor, one of many local lads around Mansfield. You know, that category is so hotly contested. You know, it's not a championship that should be overlooked. You know, these are riders who are going to be the stars of tomorrow. You look at Charlie Nesbitt. He wiped the floor with them last year, and now he's gone on to do the Junior World Championship. The overall setup of British Superbikes is to breed and to nurture the young talent, so it is there for tomorrow. And
that's exactly what it does do as well. So overall, I mean, right now the BSB is having a bit of a break whilst other things are happening. Some of the big road racing events happening right now. And this week, you've been keeping your eye on, Kiko, the Northwest 200.
I've been keeping both my eyes on the Northwest 200, and from what I've seen, I can't begin to describe. It was one of the best Northwest 200s I've ever seen. All the races were very safe. You know, the only major incident was the awful accident that John McGuinness has suffered, which we'll come on to later. But as far as the organisation was concerned, it was definitely a massive improvement on last year. We had a couple of big gaps with races on the Saturday. But again, this is road racing. You can't always help the weather. But to the racing itself, fantastic stuff. You know, you've got riders like Alistair Seeley almost matching Philip McCallan's 5 in a week from many years ago. You've got Ian Hutchinson absolutely there and on it. And then, you know, you've got Glenn Irwin. He came on to that PBM Ducati just last year in British Superbikes. He's took it to the Northwest 200 this year, and he's gone and won. And it wasn't the fact he's only won the race. It's the fact that he's come and done it. And Alistair Seeley was in such rich form. He's not beating someone who's only there because he's good over the weekend. He is the hero of the Northwest 200. He's the most successful rider at the Northwest 200. And for Glenn Irwin to take that to Alistair Seeley on that last lap, I mean, if you haven't watched it, it's all over social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. BBC have tweeted it out many times. Go and have a look at it. Glenn Irwin really takes it to Alistair Seeley. It's fantastic to watch.
Yeah, I've been certainly trying to keep up to date with all the biggest news, and there seems to be I don't know if I'm just paying extra attention to it this year with my somewhat slight involvement in the periphery of the bike world, but it does seem to be getting more exposure than I can ever remember. Certainly with the great coverage that, like you said, the BBC have been giving it as well.
Oh, it's been fantastic, and I think, in all fairness, the Isle of Man TT has always been very well covered, but it's the other road races. The Cooksdown 100, for example, is in April. I think it might have been at the start of May this year. Either way, it doesn't normally get a lot of coverage. It might get highlights on Eurosport, but everybody knows that Eurosport is a paid-to-view channel. This year, BBC, I think they did it last year as well. They've put it on the iPlayer. You can go and watch it now. It's the Cooksdown 100. You know, and it's a fantastic sport. And road racing is often in the periphery of your MotoGPs, your World Superbikes, your BSB. But once you watch a bit of road racing, you realise how many stars have actually have got a talent. You know, like Ian Hutchinson and Glenn Irwin and Alistair Seeley can ride on the short circuits, can ride on the roads. And you look back at the history of road racing, you've got Joey Dunlop, Robert Dunlop, absolute iconic figures of the road racing world. And it's brilliant that, again, the road racing scene is now being really, really pushed out. And it's not a sport that, it's easy to get into, because it's often a very niche market. It's only really done in Northern Ireland. But now that it's starting to come out a bit more, it's been kind of working in parallel with BSB. The riders are making that transition across, and that's always very good, because the BSB fans are going to go and watch it because they'll have their favourite riders to support, their favourite teams, and it is really good as well. It's not like I'm not bigging it up because I have to. It is genuinely one of the best road races of the year. It's one of my favourites for sure, along with the Ulster Grand Prix.
Yeah, certainly it's those three anyway, with the TT. Certainly ones to watch if you're into your road racing, or bikes in general. Yes. I would say
bikes in general. I've been watching bike racing for all my life, and I only really got into the Northwest 200 about 3 years ago. So it really is. Once you've watched one, you have to watch the rest, and you have to go back through time and watch the rest. And now you just have to watch it every year. It's accessible. It's not on the normal television. You have to do your red button, or you have to go on the website. But it's there, and it's live, and it's brilliant coverage from the BBC with Steve Parrish and Richard Nichols on commentary, and Stephen Watson down on the grid, and you've got Michael Laverty. You've got some big names there as pundits with Philip McCallan as well. It's a brilliant event on a whole, but it shouldn't be as a minority event. It's not people class it as a warm up to the TT. It really isn't that. It is its own event now. Speaking to Hector Neal at Alton Park, the Northwest 200 to him is his race. It is the one that he looks forward to the most. And when Glenn Irwin won, you could hear the fans. The atmosphere was absolutely electric, and that's what it should be. That's why people should go and watch it, whether that's trackside or on the television.
Yeah, it's is it something that you have been to see yourself, Kiko, or are you looking to do that?
Unfortunately, because I've got all these exams in May and June, I've never actually had the opportunity to go. This weekend is the last weekend before I have 2 exams this week. But next year, hopefully, it's already in the pipeline. I'm hoping to go. It does feel like just sitting at home, you get the atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
It's a bit like there's only certain Grand Prix that can do that around the world. You get it with Monaco a little bit with Formula One. You definitely used to get it with Brands Hatch World Superbikes. You get it with Mugello with the MotoGP. It's one of them where you don't have to be trackside to feel just how much emotion is running through that paddock at that time.
Mm. Well, if you are a bit like me and kind of, to be honest, new to the to road racing, really, and you want to follow what Kiko's been saying and properly get into it and fall in love with it, I suppose, how can people do it? What channel is it on? What websites?
You can find it on the BBC. You can go on YouTube and you find so many clips. You can go on the Duke Video website and buy a DVD or download a copy. There is thousands of ways you can go and find it. The BBC's really pushed a lot of content out, whether that be promotional videos, whether that be interviews with riders, whether that be like the last half a lap of the big Northwest 200 Superbike race from Saturday afternoon. There's loads of ways you can go and watch it, and I by miles recommend it. You've got to go and even if you don't think you'll like it, you'll probably watch it and think, do you know what? These lads are a little bit special, what they do.
Certainly, yes. Northwest200.org, I think, is the...
Yeah, there's the website as well.
Yeah.
We've got the official website, but if the tickets will probably go on sale very soon for next year if they're not on sale already now. So, there's loads of ways, and, there's enough heritage, there's enough history, there's enough websites on it. So you can, if you're new to it and you want to read up on it, that's absolutely no problem.
Do check it out. That wasn't, the Northwest 200 isn't the only thing that was happening over the course of the weekend. There was some spectacular action in Europe at Imola. We tweeted, and you may have seen a picture of a bike that was from Free Practice. I think it was in the Superstock 1000. support class, and we tweeted a picture of a bike from a rider. I'm just trying to remember the name.
Max, a Chilean rider.
Yes, him. He became, let's say, dislodged from his bike, and the bike somehow, I don't know, I've not seen the footage, I don't think there is footage of it, but the bike gets wedged into the fence, and that was just in practice. Check it out on our...
Yep, it's on your timeline on Motorsport Radio. Yes. I mean, this is a thing now that I'm starting to get over the years with Imola. As great as a circuit it really is, we've seen it with crashes as well over the weekend. It's becoming one of them tracks where you just think they could have done a bit more with safety. Now, I know the bikes get faster, and I know riders are going to get faster and going to push the limits even more than we think they're possible. But there becomes a time where certain racetracks have to step up, and I have to say, and I love Imola so much. Has Imola really stepped up its game? I'm not sure. We saw Eugene Laverty's crash with Alex Lowe's in race 1, bringing out red flags. Now, the crash itself wasn't an issue. It's the fact that the bike careered off into the distance and smashed into an unprotected barrier, erupting into flames. Now, for me, then things can happen. But if that was a rider, there would be some serious damage, not just to him, but to the world of motorcycle racing, because unprotected barriers in 2017, really, should they be happening? At corners where you're coming in around 160 miles an hour, one of the most dangerous race circuits there is anyway. You get the feeling that, maybe they should just...
It did kind of happen. I mean, those who have seen the footage, and if you haven't, it is on the a little clip. It's on, I think, the World Superbike
it's on
Twitter account as well.
It's Twitter. It's on Eurosport Twitter as well. Go and have a look at it. It's a frightening crash, but that all they have to do. I know it's difficult because it is in a built-up area. All they have to do is put some tyres in front of that, or erect a cell air fence, or something like that. They just need to make that corner a little bit safer, because it's not the first. Would that have stopped it from
bursting into flames, though? I mean, it's still going into whatever at the same speed.
It probably would have. It probably still would have burst into flames. But my argument there is that what if that was a rider? I've just said it there. It's all right. The bikes are going to ruin themselves anyway. You're going to count the damage by the times it tumbles. However, there's not a rider is not as strong as a bike all the time. Usually Laverty was very lucky. You look back through the years, and if I'm not mistaken, it was 2012. Joan Lascores, young Spanish rider riding for the factory Kawasaki team, crashed in a test and went into an unprotected part of the circuit, barriers-wise, and is paralysed now. That's a career done and dusted before it's really taken off. Now, as a motorcycle fan, I love crashes, but I like to see the riders get back up. I don't like crashes where there's bikes flying in the air and fires, and there is a limit. And I think with the past of Imola as well, he's got to do more. They have to do more to make that track safer. They've had the wake-up call with Joan Lascores with the test. Yes, these are very, very rare accidents, but unfortunately, accidents do happen. If you look at all the serious accidents that have happened over time, they never happen in a normal situation, but they have happened, and it's down to us, not us as journalists, but as a motorsport community. It's down to them to fix these issues so that you minimise the risk. You can never take the risk away, but you have to minimise it. If there was a crowd, if there was a grandstand at the end, who knows what could have happened? Where that corner was at Rivatza 1, there was I think there's the fire station for the circuit, and there's a load of marshals, and all credit to the marshals as well. We overlooked this, and I'll bring this back to the Northwest 200 as well. The marshals and the safety aspect with the medical centre is fantastic. It's second to none with bike racing, and you get the feeling that they saved something that could have got very quickly out of hand.
Well, if you have any contrary opinions to Kiko,
feel free to disagree. Come on,
yeah.
Here's my Twitter to light up right now. Come on, get them sent in. Start hating on me. Come on.
No, it's not about hating. We do welcome all opinions, and if just because you might disagree or have a slightly different opinion, or you just might have a bit more insight into the intricacies of bike safety and crashing bikes and such. Because
but on a lighter side, now, we have kind of criticised Imola a little bit there. We have had a great. I'm just looking at my notes here. Chaz Davies has done a double for Ducati at Imola. But just below that, I know it hasn't really made the championship any tighter than it was before we came here. But a very interesting stat that I'm going to take particular interest in there. There were 75,000 people trackside on Sunday. Now, that is with no disrespect to World Superbikes, a huge number for them in recent years. I cannot remember the last time that we came to a European round and there was so many people there. I mean, it wasn't the fact that there was people there, it was the fact you could feel it. You know, like I say, with the Northwest 200, you could hear the crowd. You could hear the crowd in Imola, you know, whether they're Ducati fans or not, and the racing might have not been at that good a level. However, like I tweeted out almost immediately after the race, the series has been in the doldrums for quite a long time, and now people are starting to come back to the series. The manufacturers are starting to come back to the series. The racing is getting better. It's going back to how it used to be. And I believe that come next year, World Superbikes is going to be, again, at its pinnacle. You know, and 75,000 people at a time where Italy is not struggling financially, but there's not a lot of not a massive amount of wealth in Italy, you know, like there was in Spain and Portugal many years ago. That is a very impressive figure. And World Superbikes can take heart from that, because people like me have been absolutely slating vehemently this new system of race 1 on Saturday, race 2 on Sunday. People like me have to eat our own words, because it's clearly worked for them there at Imola.
I don't know if some of the ticket prices might have been lowered. Perhaps that's sometimes.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, in Europe, the ticket prices are generally lower, and obviously the location of Imola. It's not far from Novale, where the factory Aprilias are made, and it's not far from Borgo Panigale and Bologna, where the Ducatis are made. So, you know, I suppose there's a lot of people want to come and see them. Marco Melandri's return to the series as a massive Italian name has obviously helped. But you look on the Donington Park's website and you're looking at 50 quid. And no disrespect, I can go to British Superbikes for £35, and that's without a discount, and that's without a media pass or whatever. And I get the KTM Consumer Finance Cup, I get the Ducati Tri-Options Cup, I get 2 BSB races, sometimes even 3. I get 2 British Supersport races, I now get 2 British Stock 1000 races, I get a Stock 600 race, I get sidecars. You know, you look at World Superbikes and you think, oh, so I got 1 race on one day, and I've got qualifying, and I've got a Stock 1000 race, and I've got a Supersport race, and then I've got the next World Superbike race. I'm not being funny. That's more than £50 is more than £35. I know I'm doing a bit of an obvious sum there, but you don't get the racing. You don't get as much racing, and I think it's not scandalous. It's criminal. Why is it £50? World Superbikes, like I say, is coming back, but it hasn't got back yet. And I think that really £50 for something that's spread across 2 days is outrageous. I really do. Who's going to pay £50 to do that? I mean, I haven't got £50 to go and spend. Because a lot of people
with £50 might pay it, though.
People with £50 might well pay it, but what about if they're coming up from London? They've got to then fork out for an hotel while they're there. And a hotel on Saturday night in Nottingham, as I found out this weekend, isn't very cheap. It's roughly about £80-90. So actually, although you might want to spread the crowd over the weekend, you're putting people off coming. You know, they'd go if there was a Supersport race and a Stock 1000 race on the Saturday as well, and then you do the race format now with the Supersport and the race with the World Superbikes and the Stock 1000s. But 4 races, I know you get the Supersport 300s, but 4 races, 5 races across 2 days, and you're paying 50 quid, £15 more than BSB. And without being too technical, the racing isn't as good as the BSB. And it's you get the feeling that, you know, Donington Park, yes, it's the home of World Superbikes, it's where it was first founded, but £50, I mean, come on. You're talking about putting people off coming, not encouraging them.
It'll be certainly interesting to see what attendance figures they get. In a few.
I remember one time in 1999, World Superbikes got a crowd of 75,000 at Donington Park. Might have even been 90,000. Whereas you look at Grand Prix back then, they were only getting 15,000. Now, the attendance has definitely come down for a number of reasons. It's not just a 2-day thing. It's because World Superbikes has become less interesting, which is very sad because the Supersport category is coming back. And World Superbikes, like I say, is coming back. But I've already said it hasn't come back yet. And charging £50 for a ticket, and that's the normal ticket. £50 might be a rounded up number, but if you take into account your cost to get there, justify why I should go to a World Superbike round and pay £50, or why I should go to a British Superbike round and pay £35.
Because you love it.
To me, it's a no-brainer. I
guess being a world championship is always going to command a bit more money. Obviously, you're going to have to pay more money going to an international world championship than you are like something like a club racing, for example.
Yeah, I buy that. But, you look at the names, right, in BSB. So you've got Shaky Byrne. I'm going to write them down now. Shaky Byrne, race winner in World Superbikes. You've got Aslan. He's a race winner in World Superbikes. You've got Sylvain Guintoli. He's not just a race winner, he's a world champion. You've got Davide Giuliano, Stock 1000 champion from 2011, I think. He's in the paddock. You've got Christian Idden, rode the wheels off a Bimotor in World Superbikes that wasn't eligible for points. He's doing well. You've got a stack of riders in the championship. Hopkins is another one from Grand Prix. We're going on about world level. There's more depth in a field of British Superbike level than what there is at World Superbike level. I spoke to Eugene Laverty about it at Brands Hatch, and he said to me, do you know what? A 12th place in World Superbikes isn't actually as good as getting a 12th place in BSB. The depth of talent in World Superbikes is, like I say, coming back with the names like Bradle and Nicky Hayden coming in. But you look at BSB, and it's absolutely stacked. We've missed out Josh Brooks. Now, I don't think, off the top of my head, he's had a race win in World Superbikes, but he led a World Superbike race last year. He's been on the front row for World Superbikes. And you get the feeling that, you go to BSB and you actually might meet a few famous faces. You go to World Superbikes and you think, I'll meet the series leader. The personality is definitely more in BSB, and not just the personality, but the world names. There is just as much success in the BSB Championship as there is in World Superbikes. So again, internationally, I'd still rather pick BSB. That's just me, but World Superbikes will come back and it will be good when it does come back. But BSB, there's a lot more parity as well. You turn up to Alton Park and you think, right, is it going to be a Kawasaki today? Is it going to be a Ducati win today? Is it going to be a Yamaha win today? It might even be a Honda with Jason O'Halloran. It might even be a Suzuki with Bradley Ray running well. You go to World Superbikes, you think, it's Kawasaki or Ducati. For me, I want to see a good level playing field. I want to see people really giving it a bit of hard time. The World Superbikes, the top 5 home in Imola race 2 were Ducatis and Kawasaki's. It doesn't... World Superbikes for me is just not screaming out as the World Series it's supposed to live up to be. It really isn't. Whereas I look at BSB and I think, I can't wait for the next round. It's killing me having 5 weeks off, 6 weeks, whatever it is.
So for you then, Kiko, I just put the question out on a couple of Facebook groups asking perhaps BSB versus World Superbikes. I think you were kind of hinting at this question. You don't have to answer it, but
no,
I'll ask it.
Stick me on the spot. Go on, make me look a fool in front of many.
You don't have to answer it, certainly.
No,
you don't have to if you don't want to. But does the World Superbikes Championship and the package that you mentioned, I think I know your answer, but does it represent value for money?
No, it doesn't at all. It really doesn't. Maybe once upon a time it did. I don't want to slag World Superbikes off. This is the thing. I love World Superbikes, the heritage that championship has. But unfortunately, you look at British Superbikes and you think, do you know what? I'm going to get some good racing this weekend. You look at World Superbikes, you think, maybe. World Superbikes has got this. It's not a lack of personality, it's a lack of rivalry. Thankfully, Chaz Davies and Jonathan Ray have fallen out. It's the best thing that's happened in World Superbikes for about 3 years. It's like when Sykes and Baz were falling out. That's what we want. As a fan, as a journalist, I want to be looking at riders falling out. I don't want to be looking at diplomatic comments after a race. I want a bit of action. I want a bit of not verbal abuse, but I want a bit of verbal tension, a bit of tension. I want to see that get taken to the track. Yes. A little bit like Rossi and Marquez, not on that level, but no, World Superbikes doesn't represent value for money for me. And actually, British Superbikes, I think, is very cheap for what you get. I mean,
don't say that because next thing you know.
Yeah, I know. Stuart Higgs, don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm on about. Ignore me. No, but do you know what I mean? I think that British Superbikes, you get about 12 or 13 races. And it's most of them, apart from Brands Hatch and Cadwell Park, are open paddocks. You can meet the riders, you can meet the teams. And I was walking in the paddock at Alton Park and I met John McPhee. Obviously for me, as a journalist, that means I've got to go and interview. As a fan, you've got your little 5-year-old kid, your daughter or your son. That's a legend there. And that's John McPhee, the Moto3 World Championship contender. That's very good. And you might get out of World Superbikes. But again, you're paying extra money for it. You look at, even MotoGP is cheaper. You go to MotoGP, it was €39 for a whole weekend ticket at Jerez. And they're bringing numbers in all over the place, 125,000 fans, sorry. I just don't think World Superbikes has grasped what people want. And, this split race thing has had a massive influence. Yes, the crowds weren't really there anyway from many seasons ago. But you look at some seasons and, some of the rounds have got thousands of fans going, like Imola this year. But, I'm not sure. I think World Superbikes definitely needs a bit of a swing around. I think they need to revert back to these 2 races. It's all on Sunday. They need to go back to the traditional way. I'm a little bit for the reverse grid. It brings excitement for a little bit. But, value for money, British Superbikes all day long.
You heard it here first, if you didn't already know. BSB, still value for money and still doing a fantastic job. I think we knew that anyway, to be honest.
Definitely. The thing with British Superbikes is, sorry, I'm going on now. British Superbikes has never had a poor spell. World Superbikes for the last couple of years has been struggling massively. It's all been very Kawasaki Ducati. The dominance level has shifted. There's no Hondas or Yamahas, even Aprilia anymore. BMW, they're not really challenging for a podium position, let alone a race win. Like I say, you go to British Superbikes, you could have 5 manufacturers packing out the top 5. I don't know. I just think BSB has got a lot more to offer. And it's producing riders to go into World Superbikes and Supersport, and it's also sending them off to Moto2, as we have seen with Taron McKenzie. He's left the McCann's Yamaha team, although they allowed him to go and replace Danny Kent at Kiefer Racing in Moto2. So even then, the talent in BSB across all classes is immense, and it is extremely fun to watch on a day out.
Certainly is. And that's Kiko's take on what happened at the World Superbikes and World Superbikes in general, and BSB and the Northwest 200. We've covered quite a lot, actually, to be honest.
We have covered quite a lot. You said this half an hour would go quick. Let me just have a little butchers at this.
It's been about 50 minutes or something. It's not bad, considering that regular people who tune into this show will know I almost never talk about bikes because, unlike you, I'm not an expert.
I'm going to correct myself here. I'm going on about World Superbikes being terrible. It's not terrible. It is great.
You didn't say that. It's
no. Someone will say, "Oh, why are you going on about World Superbikes?" It's not terrible. It just needs a bit of reform. It just needs a little bit of a change to bring it back to its glory days, and that's all. It doesn't need massive amounts of improvement, but just 1 or 2 tweaks. They've gone the wrong direction for my liking, and I think that reflects a bit in the numbers. But it is coming back. Like I said right at the start, it's coming back, and hopefully by next year we're going to have a proper championship.
Well, I suppose everybody's got their own views on when the glory days were.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
And if you do happen to sort of disagree with Kiko, get in touch with us. He's at M-Sport Radio on Twitter. It's Motorsport Radio on Facebook. And what is your? How can people sort of keep in touch with your journalismings?
You can keep up with my journalismings with that MotoGP Kiko on Twitter and Kiko Alexander Giles on Facebook. I've got a couple of shout-outs to do, actually.
Oh, right, okay.
Stuart Rye tweeted me about John McGuinness. And unfortunately, the Morecambe missile has had a bit of a catastrophe at the Northwest 200. It's not just a broken leg. It is, unfortunately, 3 vertebrae been damaged or broken and ribs as well. He's asked me, who's going to replace McPint at the TT? And will Honda go to the TT? Because they withdrew, obviously, their Superbike.
Yeah, they withdrew on Friday, didn't they?
They did. It left Guy Martin without a ride. Difficult to say at the moment. If I was Honda, I'd probably look at Connor Cummins because he's very in with them. I don't know if he is riding the Honda anyway. I'm not sure. Jackson Racing will probably know more than me about that. But I don't know. I think they will go to the TT, even if they bring the old Fireblade back out of its retirement, out of the museum, wherever it is. I think they'll definitely go. I can't imagine a TT without Honda in the top 4 or 5. Who they're going to ride on it, no idea. There's a lot of talent out there. I'd be looking, like I said, I'd look at Cummings. But we'll see. The TT's in a couple of weeks, last week of May, first week of June. I think we could have a rider confirmed by then. And I'll just do this last one. It made me laugh a little bit. My boss is on Twitter, Andy Hopper, the Hostess restaurant in Mansfield Woodhouse. If you want to check it out and give him a bit of stick, go and do so. He said, when are you going to talk about a real sport? Because I said, if you got any questions two-wheel related, please tweet them in. And he said, when are you going to follow a real two-wheeled sport like cycling? I won't.
What does he think? What does he think bikes are?
Oh, he just thinks they're men dressed in leather, and he probably hasn't got a lot of common sense. And I'll be out of a job by the end of next week because I've just said that on air. But it doesn't matter. Cycling is very fun, but it's not as fun as road racing, is it? When you get Alistair Seeley and Glenn Irwin at the peak of their performances, going at it hammer and tongs into the last Juniper Hill chicane at the Northwest 200. I'm afraid it's just not quite on that level. I mean, his road racing is obviously different, and they're all tripping up over puddles and whatever. But I like a manly sport. I do. I think I'm a bit more into the mechanical side and the motor racing side than the good old-fashioned push irons,
Well, that's Kiko's view on. Go
on, tweet me again. Why I'm wrong with
I think you're asking for a good tweeting, to be honest.
I am. I'm not sure.
Purposefully trying to wind people up.
I'm going to go down to the chippy. I'm going to get some food. I'm going to ignore everyone for the rest of the night. I'll check my Twitter.
By the way, for the record, there is nothing wrong with liking cycling and motorcycling as well. There is nothing wrong with it. You are allowed to watch the Tour de France.
Cycling is very good, and I do watch the Tour de France sometimes. The Giro d'Italia's on at the moment.
Yes.
But it's not motorcycle racing, is it? It's not.
I know what you mean, though. I was
going to say I'd rather watch Formula One, but now I've said that, I'm not so sure. No, he might be more motorcycle racing for me, but that's just me. I'm probably wrong, and I'm sure someone will tell me.
Well, we are talking about Formula One next, actually, with some more guests. Excellent. Kiko.
More enthusiastic about it than me.
It's been fantastic to have you on the show for best part of an hour, to be honest. Without you, to be honest, I would have struggled to get through the first 3 minutes of this conversation, to be honest. Thank you very much for making your debut on this show. Not your first on Motorsport Radio, but certainly on this show. And you're more than welcome to come back, especially after your travels around various BSB paddocks as well. So
let's hope I shall see you all soon. Thank you for watching.
Yes, excellent. Kiko Alexander Giles, do check him out.
This is Motorsport Radio. Join the conversation and have your say on motorsport-radio.com.